Okay, here's how Miro works. See, it's amazing.
What's everyone doing at David's desk?
Ever since marketing started using Miro's collaborative online whiteboard, he thinks all our other teams should sign up.
Why?
He says Miro's making his meetings disappear. And if every team gets on it, that means even less meetings. They're using Miro for brainstorms, mind maps, customer research.
So could we use Miro instead of having another 100 meetings for every round of feedback?
Yep. You can comment, react to ideas, even leave a recording on the board.
And what about presentations?
There are Miro templates for that.
How do you know so much about Miro?
I've actually been using it all along. I just used a Miro board to plan the best vacation.
Okay, I'm on board.
See how Miro users save up to 80 hours every year by meeting less and doing more. Get on board at Miro.com with 3 boards free forever. That's MIRO.com.
This is Dream Power Radio, the place where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dream Power Show on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network powered by Raven International. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, the Dream Coach. This is the show where we talk about dreams, both daytime and nighttime dreams, and how you can use them to make the internal shift to a life you love. And as a reminder, I'm here to help you understand your dreams. So if you've got a dream that's got you stumped, send it to me at Debbie@DreamPowerRadio.com. I can help you interpret your dream or even answer any general questions you may have about dreams. So again, please email me at Debbie@DreamPowerRadio.com. One of the things I love about Dreamwork is the number of worlds that can open up to anyone willing to take the dive into understanding their dreams. But unfortunately, a lot of people just aren't willing to do this. Well, because quite frankly, dreams are just often plain weird and hard to figure out, and they don't want to put in the effort to make sense of them. Well, my goal is to convince you to make the time to do this. And to help me in this quest is my guest today, Yael Schiller. Yael is a psychotherapist, author, and dream consultant who teaches on a wide range of dreamwork practices. She's written numerous articles on dreams and has a new book coming out called Modern Dreamwork: New Tools for Decoding Your Soul's Wisdom. Welcome to the Dream Power Show, Yael.
Thank you, Debbie. Nice to be here.
Oh, my pleasure. Yael, why is it so hard for people to make sense of their dreams?
That's a great question. Dreams don't follow the same rules, so to speak, as our waking thoughts. When we're awake, we tend to have a more sort of linear kind of thinking, and A follows B, and A plus B equals C. Where in dream work, it's more like loops and spirals and kind of like a Mobius strip where things twist and turn. So you need a special way of attending to your dreams that is a little bit different than your regular waking life to kind of unpack the mysteries that they have.
And how is one way of doing that?
Well, there are a lot of different things to think about in terms of understanding a dream, and there are a couple of points that I can make. One is that dreams often, if not usually, come coded in some kind of metaphor or symbolism. So we certainly can have dreams that are pretty much like instant replay of what we did the day before or the week before. And in the case of post-trauma dreams, sometimes those dreams come and are just sort of like a replay of the traumatic event that happened. But often dreams come with a metaphor or symbolism that we don't understand. So the first thing we have to do is appreciate, oh, this means something, even if I don't yet get what it is. And then the next step is to start looking for associations. And part of doing good dream work is the ability to make associations between what you dreamt about at night and what's going on in your life today, or in the past week, or in the past larger chunk of time, as in the case particularly of repetitive dreams. And the other thing, two other things to remember. One is that when we have dreams, we need to contextualize them within our life. So you and I might have a similar dream, but it will mean something different to me and to you because your life is different than my life. So we have to contextualize it in the life of the person having the dream. And the dreamer is always the ultimate authority for his or her own dream. It doesn't matter if I'm working with someone and I think, oh, I know what your dream means. If it doesn't resonate as true with the dreamer, him or herself, then it's not true for them. And the final way I'll answer this question is that dreams also have many layers. So there could be many layers of simultaneously true meaning to any dream that we have. So there's a sort of a bunch of answers to your question.
No, that's quite right. Going on to take the last answer a little bit further. You say it has different kind of layers. Can you elaborate a bit on what you mean by different kind of layers within a dream?
Sure. There's sort of two things I'm thinking about with layers of a dream. There's the layers within the dream itself, and there are also layers of what sort of constitutes a dream. We operate on a continuum between wide awake and sound asleep. And in that continuum are a variety of states of consciousness. So after wide awake, the next one might be like daydreaming, which isn't technically dreaming at all, but it's the vernacular when we're kind of spacing out and thinking about something else. The layer after that would be paying attention to what is called in shamanic and energy circles the waking dream, where you're paying attention to things happening in your daily life that are synchronistic, that have meaning above and beyond coincidentally appearing there. And if you're paying attention, that can be a form of a waking dream. The next layer is that state of consciousness just before we fall asleep at night and we're not quite asleep yet, and just as we're waking up in the morning and we're not quite either awake or asleep, that in Jungian terms is called the hypnopompic or the hypnagogic zone. Those states of consciousness are actually very, very similar to our REM, our REM dreaming state. REM is rapid eye movement, which is what happens when we dream. So the material from that state of consciousness is pretty much from the same part of our brain and the same part of our being as our actual nighttime dreams. And then the last piece in this looking at layers is what has become popular in recent years, which is called lucid dreaming. And lucid dreaming is that when you are asleep and dreaming, at the same time, you're aware that you're asleep and dreaming, which is like a meta level of the dream, if you will. Mm-hmm. So that's one way of looking at layers in a dream. And the other way, that's sort of maybe the horizontal looking at layers. And then sort of the vertical looking at layers is layers of meaning within the dream itself. So the top layer of meaning might be just the storyline of the dream itself. I dreamt that I was on a beach and a tsunami was approaching. Boom, that's my dream. So the first layer of meaning is just the storyline. The next layer is that our first associations, when I'm thinking about being on a beach and thinking about a tsunami, what comes to mind right away? Is there anything in my life that this reminds me of? Have I ever been on a beach like that before, or that particular beach? Have I ever experienced a tsunami or a big storm on a beach? Do I have any associations off the top of my head, so to speak? So that one comes, pretty quickly as well, that second layer. The third layer is where we do most of our active dream work and do a lot of different methods and techniques for exploring the dream material, which is a deeper layer that needs to be, as Jung would say, unpacked. So from the dream itself. Here's where we start to look at the metaphor, the symbolism. We look at associations to story, to myth, to fairy tale, to the emotional energy of being on that beach and that tsunami, and take it past just, have I ever been there, to, what does a tsunami mean to me if I'm going to free associate? What is it about a storm? What does it have to do with water? In my own life, am I feeling any stormy emotions going on? Have I ever been in a place like this emotionally or physically or spiritually? Is this a repetitive dream? Is it a one-time dream? And then the deepest layer is where we connect with sort of a spiritual and or a world consciousness, so that we're tapping into sort of a mythic and mystical layer and potentially spiritual layer that the dream can be bringing to us as well. So those are just some of the ways of understanding dream layers.
Right. And so you could have one dream and it can take on different meanings depending on how you're looking at it. In other words, would you say that's the case?
Exactly right. That's right.
Yes.
Well, and all the meanings will simultaneously be true. It's not like either or. It's sort of like ever deepening layers of meaning. Like, oh yeah, I dreamt that I had pizza in my dream. It's like, yep, I had pizza for dinner last night. Okay, that's true. That's true. And then, pizza. When I think about pizza, what's my association? Oh, pizza reminds me of Italy, and I've always wanted to go to Italy, or maybe I'm from Italy, or is my family Italian? That's another layer of meaning. What does that have to do with dreaming about pizza, right? And then we can keep on going. When I think about pizza, is it spicy? Does it have meat on it or not? Slicing it, there's another layer. What about pizza slices? Or am I gluten or lactose intolerant? So if I'm eating pizza, I'm going to get sick, as opposed to a family celebration. Does that have any resonance for me when I think about those layers? So that's just an example of it's not just either or.
Right. And to me, I think this is just fascinating how what we think about at night can just, like I said at the beginning, open up new worlds for us. Why do you think so many people are just not interested or even resistant to talking about their dreams or even remembering their dreams?
It's interesting. Because we all dream every night. We actually all dream like 4 to 7 times a night. We have REM cycles, depending on if you're a 5-hour a night sleeper or a 9-hour a night sleeper, you'll have more or less REM cycles. So it's not that people don't have dreams, it's that they don't remember them. So you're absolutely right in phrasing the question that way. And I think in part, we in modern Western world don't value dreams as much as our ancestors and people from wisdom traditions have valued the dreams. Back in the day, when we lived in tribes, the leaders of the tribes, the shamans of the tribes, were the ones who were the deepest dreamers and could understand and appreciate dreams. And dreams were seen as very, very important parts of daily life. And there wasn't as much differentiation between what we call our waking life and what we call our sleeping life. Sort of the time-space continuum was a little larger, and the differentiation was smaller when we lived on the land and we lived closer to connections with cycles of nature. And in Western science, there's a Freudian slip for you. In Western world and Western thinking, we've become worshipers of science, not spirituality. And there have been too many scientists who over the years have sort of dismissed the value of dreams, saying, oh, they're random neurological firings of the brain. They're just little hiccups and they don't mean anything. And you hear that often enough and you go, well, yeah, even though I might have thought it meant something, all these scientists are telling me it doesn't, so I'm just going to believe them. So I think we've swung a little bit too far over to that sort of rationalist viewpoint and aren't giving enough attention to the other parts of our being and our brains.
It's so true. And, when I talk to people about dreams, I consider myself a very practical person. And I like to point out all the great things that have arose because of dreams. Einstein coming up with his idea of, his ideas just, through dreams, and, inventions that have come up through dreams.
Right.
And I like to say they have a very practical benefit as well in terms of what they offer us.
Yeah, that term, it's like, oh, I'll sleep on it, is actually really a good idea, because we come up with creative solutions to problems when we sleep. We come up with insights when we sleep. Lots of scientific inventions, artistic works, musical compositions came straight out of someone's dream, sometimes emerging full-blown from the dream. For example, Frankenstein. Mary Shelley dreamt it. She woke up in the morning and said she basically just had to transcribe her dream, and the story was right there, full-blown. And Paul McCartney, the song Yesterday, he dreamt the tune in his dream. He wrote down in the morning, he woke up and he notated the melody, and then he just filled in the words. So there are lots and lots of examples of that.
That is so true. And in terms of Paul McCartney, we're glad that he didn't keep his original words, because I think he actually dreamt to the beautiful tune of Yesterday. He dreamt scrambled eggs, how I love my scrambled eggs. And, so that didn't work out. So it was good thing he came up with better lyrics, so they remember. But it's true.
Right. He edited his dream productivity.
Exactly.
We all need a good editor, right? Even for our dreams.
And that is so true. Well, we're going to take a short break here. We're talking all about dreams with my guest, Linda Schiller. We'll be right back. Want to know more about remembering your dreams and what they mean? Want practical tools to help you really live the life of your dreams? I'm Debbie Spector-Weissman, the Dream Coach. For powerful wisdom you can use, sign up for my newsletter today at dreampowerradio.com. It's free.
Welcome back to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Yes, and welcome back to the Dream Power Show. We're talking with Linda Schiller about dreams. Linda, you run an ongoing dream group. How does working in a group help people understand their dreams?
We all have blind spots, and we can't see the back of our own heads without not only one mirror, but at least two, and someone else to hold that second mirror. So when we're working with other people around a dream, they can see things that we can't see in a dream. That's sort of the bottom line of one of the benefits of working in a dream circle for the dreamer, is that we get different perspectives on our dream that we might not have thought of, because we get in our own way sometimes. And when things particularly are symbolic or metaphorical, we kind of get stuck in, oh, this is what I dreamed, but I can't figure it out. And then for the other members of the dream circle, we all resonate together with everyone's dream. So that if I'm talking about my dream, you may resonate with some aspect of my dream and get your own aha or insight or burst of creativity as a result of being in that space of working at this dream.
So from all of your experience, can you give us an example of someone who came into your group with one of these hard to figure out dreams, and how he or she benefited from this?
Sure. I'm actually, I as you mentioned before, I have a book coming out in December on modern dreamwork. And I guess nature abhors a vacuum, or at least I know I have at least two books in me. So my next book is going to be on PTS dreams, on post-trauma dreams. So I've been actually starting some of my blogging on working with someone's dreams related to some childhood trauma. And the dreams she was coming in with were dreams about having like sticky taffy in her mouth. and she couldn't talk, or she couldn't open her jaw all the way, or when she tried to talk, she just got a little peep come out, but a lot of this sort of sticky stuff in her mouth. And that was like a repetitive dream for her. And so we worked on it for a while, and she'd always say, oh, it's just that stupid dream again. It doesn't mean anything. And the response to a repetitive dream is, well, actually, it's even more important if it's a repetitive dream, because it's something unfinished. It's something your psyche really wants you to know and wants you to do something about. And it's going to keep coming back and potentially escalating until you kind of get it, whatever the it is that you're supposed to get, and then take the action step of whatever the action is you're supposed to do. So we worked with her for a while and asked her questions about, her mouth and about food and about what it meant. And we got to the layer of metaphor where she couldn't speak up for herself. She felt tongue-tied. She felt like words got stuck in her throat. Right? So here's sort of a layer of metaphor that we're starting to get to, as opposed to, I have a hard time chewing certain foods. That there was nothing about that for her. So then we asked, okay, so what does that mean? Let's think about it in terms of your life today, in terms of your history. And working together, she came up with kind of two things. One was sort of more current, which is she's a sort of quiet, mild-mannered person, very lovely woman. She describes herself as kind of conflict avoidant. She doesn't like to speak up. And she's been having this boss at work who has been kind of unreasonable and making unreasonable demands, and she hasn't been able to speak up for herself to say anything about that. So that was her first aha, and we worked with her. Literally, sometimes we do physical embodied dream work where we had her actually like pulling that taffy out of her mouth to get it unstuck, and we had her sort of doing this motion that I'm doing in her dream, and then talked about what else she could do in waking life with the boss. So that was one layer that she was working on and starting to think about. And then as we got to know each other better and she was in the group longer, she told us about growing up with a mom who was pretty mentally ill and was sick a lot of her life. And she was really scared all the time that if she said the wrong thing, it could like tip her mother over into a worse crisis. So she spent a lot of time sort of swallowing her anger and her fear and her pain, and didn't speak up about these things. I had been living with that for years and years and years. And that was the second aha. So there's this current event at work going on of this boss, and I can't speak up to him. And then this sort of older history from, 40 some years ago of not being able to speak up as a child. So one layer of intervention, if you will, is just getting the connections made between the metaphor in the dreams and what's going on in either current or past life. And after working on these dreams for a while, she came in one week saying, you're not going to believe this, but I actually spoke up to my boss at work. And I told him that this request he had made for me to work these extra overtime hours without being compensated for it was unreasonable, and that we needed to figure out some way for either me not to work that much or to be paid for working. And she'd never done that before. So there was a piece of change already from doing the dream work and getting that taffy out of her mouth that allowed her to speak up. Mm-hmm. So there's more that goes on and on, but that's a piece of the example.
Right. And in terms of working with the group, if she had been of a mind to work on the dream by herself, she might not have gotten that confidence to speak up if she hadn't had the support of the group supporting her in the process. That's
a really good point. In addition to getting a lot of 2 heads are better than one or 6 heads are better than one around what does my dream mean, working in a dream circle is also the support and the encouragement of everybody to take the dream learning and take the dream insight out into the world, into action, and then get really kind of appreciated and applauded for having done it. And that's invaluable too.
Oh, exactly. You spoke a little bit before about working with people with PTSD. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how dreams play into that?
Well, when someone has experienced a traumatic event, whether it's a one-time trauma or something ongoing, their system needs to process it. And because it affects our whole being, it affects our physical body, our emotional body, our spiritual self, it really just affects all, it has the potential to affect all parts of our life. And when we're in danger, we have the response of either, like you've heard of the fight or flight response. It's fight, flight, freeze, or play dead are the four common responses that animals in the wild have to being pursued by some kind of a predator. And if we are now safe and have been able to receive support in our life and can kind of shake off that traumatic event, whatever it was, our system kind of rights itself. And we might be dreaming about, let's say, for example, someone was in a car accident. They might be dreaming about that for a while, but if our system is righting itself and sort of self-correcting, moving toward wholeness as our systems want to do, the dreams are going to start, they might be repetitive for a while, but then they're going to start to diminish. They'll get less intense, they'll get less frequent, and eventually they'll just go away. And that will be a sign that our system has finished sort of processing the trauma, and we won't go on to develop PTSD, because we don't develop a post-traumatic stress disorder every time we experience a trauma. We only develop that if the trauma is not able to be, sufficiently processed by our system, in which case then we need a little extra help to do that. So if the dreams continue or get worse, it might be actual replaying of the traumatic event, or it might be metaphor. Someone's dreaming not only about car crashes, but about thunderstorms or lightning strikes or crashing waves or broken glass, things that are related to but not exactly what happened. So working through that at the layer of the dream gives our system kind of a jump start to processing if it's gotten stuck and hasn't been able to process it itself.
I see. Okay, we did speak about your new book that's coming out, I think it's the end of the year. It's
Right.
called Modern Dreamwork, New Tools for Decoding Your Soul's Wisdom. So can you speak a bit about maybe what a couple of those tools might be?
Oh, sure. Well, there are a couple things that make this book sort of unique in the field. And one is the embodied psychospiritual approach. So this goes back to looking at layers of dreams. So when I'm working with people around their dreams, we're paying attention to the images themselves, the metaphors of the story, what we call the emotional narrative, which is if I'm dreaming, I went to the store and bought a loaf of bread. Is that a positive, negative, or neutral dream? Am I feeling calm? Or am I really upset in the dream because I think the store is going to be out of bread and I'm really hungry, just for example. So we're looking at that layer. We're looking at the spiritual layer. What is bread? Does it resonate with loaves and fishes, for example? Does it resonate with the fact that during Passover, we're not eating bread, we're eating matzah instead of bread? Bread can be a metaphor for money, right? So does it have anything to do with my financial state of affairs? And looking at dreams also from an embodied perspective means I'm paying attention myself and with my dreamers as to what is my body doing when I'm having the dream and then when I'm telling the dream. Am I getting any felt sense, any resonance of either emotion or physical sensation in my body that I need to pay attention to work with the dreams? So that's one piece of sort of different layers of attention in a dream. And then working with the dreams there's so many different techniques and ways of working. One of them is from the Gestalt perspective, where you are actually every person and even every object in the dream. And so what happens if you think about the dream from that perspective? So if I dreamed I'm going to the store to buy a loaf of bread, There's the me in the dream, the I, so that's one character. There's the loaf of bread part of me in the dream. There's the store part of me in the dream. There's the street I'm walking down part of me in the dream. So that's another way of doing dream work from that Gestalt perspective. Then there is thinking about what is the purpose or meaning of an object in the dream. So keep the same dream. I've already done this a little bit, but the question, Gail Delaney actually created this dream interview, and she says, I'm from Mars, right? I have no idea what a loaf of bread is. Explain to me what a loaf of bread is as if I'm a Martian. And then the dreamer explains what a loaf of bread is, and we're listening. The dreamer, him or herself, and we are listening to what are they saying about that loaf of bread. A loaf of bread is something that we can eat, and it's a basic sustenance, and a lot of cultures have rituals around bread. And I really don't like Wonder Bread, it's just full of air, or I really prefer whole wheat bread, and I hope the store has whole wheat. So we're listening to all these layers to get an even deeper layer of meaning from, as we describe what is bread to that person.
With that, I can't believe it, but we're almost out of time. So just quickly want to end by saying, how can people learn more about you?
Oh, thank you. Well, I have a website, LindaYaelSchiller.com is my website, and I have a blog, AwakeToYourDreams.com, and my book is actually already up on Amazon and Goodreads and other platforms for pre-order. It comes out in December, but it's up there for pre-order if you want to read about it. And so yeah, basically from my website or my blog, you can learn a little bit about my practice in psychotherapy and consulting and my dream work and my writing. So,
well, thank you so much for being on the show today. We've been speaking with Linda Schiller about dreams on the Dream Power Show. I hope you've enjoyed the program. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector-Weissman saying, sweet dreams, everybody.
You've been listening to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman. For more information on Debbie or to sign up for her newsletter, go to dreampowerradio.com. This has been Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network, powered by Raven International.